There's a theory that says we should never have sent those messages into space. Not because no one's listening, but because someone might be. And if they heard us, we may have already made a fatal mistake. For over a century now, humanity has been announcing itself to the universe. Radio waves leaking from our planet, television broadcasts spreading outward at the speed of light. And then, deliberately, we sent messages. The Arecibo transmission, the golden records on Voyager, signals beamed toward the distant stars. We did this with hope, with curiosity, with the innocent assumption that if anyone heard us, they'd be friendly. But what if that assumption is wrong? What if the universe isn't empty, just silent? What if it's full of civilizations, ancient and powerful, all staying perfectly quiet, because making noise is how you die? Welcome. We're glad you're here with us tonight. You're listening to this in darkness or near darkness. Maybe you're resting, maybe studying, maybe just letting your mind wander into the cosmos. However you've arrived, you're welcome to stay as long as you like. Before we go further, if you enjoy these quiet explorations of space and our place in it, a quick like or subscribe would really help this channel grow. But no pressure, we'll be here either way. Tonight we're thinking about silence. Not the silence of your room, though that's part of it. We're thinking about the silence of space. The deep, vast, unsettling quiet that surrounds our little blue planet as it spins through the dark. We've been listening for a long time now. Decades. Our radio telescopes pointed upward, scanning frequencies, waiting for a pattern, a signal, a voice, anything that would tell us we're not alone. And in all that listening, in all those years, nothing. Well, that's not quite true. We've heard the universe, the hiss of hydrogen clouds, the rhythmic pulse of spinning neutron stars, the faint whisper of the Big Bang, itself still echoing through everything. But no voices, no messages, no hello from across the stars. This puzzle has haunted us since 1950, when physicist Enrico Fermi asked a simple question over lunch. Where is everybody? It's a good question, a haunting one, because when we look up, we see so much potential. 400 billion stars in our galaxy alone, trillions of galaxies beyond that, planets everywhere, rocky worlds, gas giants, moons with hidden oceans beneath ice. The universe is full, overflowing, teeming with places where life could arise. The math suggests we shouldn't be alone. The odds say there should be others, many others, who've had billions of years longer than us to develop, to build, to reach for the stars. And yet, silence. We've offered explanations. Maybe life is rare. Maybe intelligence is rarer. Maybe civilizations destroy themselves before they can spread. Maybe they're too far away, or we're looking in the wrong way, listening on the wrong frequencies. All reasonable possibilities. But there's another answer, a darker one. An answer that asks us to imagine the universe not as an empty frontier waiting to be explored, but as something else entirely. A forest. A dark forest, where every civilization is a hunter, moving carefully between the trees, where every sound you make reveals your position, where the silence isn't a mystery to be solved, it's a survival strategy. And if you break that silence, if you call out into the dark, you might discover you're not alone, right before something finds you. This is the dark forest theory. And tonight, we're going to walk through it together, slowly, carefully. We have time. There's no rush. The stars aren't going anywhere, and neither are we. But by the end of our journey, you might understand why some scientists lie awake at night, wondering if humanity's friendly messages into space were the most dangerous thing we've ever done. Let's begin. We're a species that calls out. It's in our nature, isn't it? When we enter a dark room, we speak. When we're lost in the woods, we shout. When we feel alone, we reach for connection. We make noise. We send signals. We say, I'm here. Are you there? And we've been doing this with the universe too. In 1974, we sent a message from the Arecibo radio telescope in Puerto Rico. A simple string of ones and zeros, beamed toward a cluster of stars 25,000 light-years away. It contained basic information about us, our numbers, our chemistry, the structure of our DNA, a crude map of our solar system. It was a greeting, a cosmic hello. We called it the Arecibo message. 3 years before that, in 1971, we launched something even more personal. Pioneer 10, a small spacecraft carrying a golden plaque. On it, we etched diagrams, a man and a woman standing side by side, the position of our sun relative to nearby pulsars, the path the spacecraft would take through the solar system. It was a message in a bottle cast into the largest ocean we know. Then came the Voyager probes in 1977. Voyager 1 and Voyager 2, twin explorers carrying identical golden records. These weren't just diagrams, they were curated collections of Earth. Sounds of wind, thunder, whales, laughter, music from different cultures and eras, greetings in 55 languages, images of our planet, our cities, our faces. We wanted whoever found them to know us, to see us as we see ourselves, curious, creative, reaching outward. And we've been listening too. SETI, the search for extraterrestrial intelligence, has been scanning the skies since 1960. Thousands of hours, millions of data points, radio dishes aimed at nearby stars, at interesting exoplanets, at regions of space where something, anything might be transmitting. We've built bigger dishes, better algorithms. We've crowdsourced the search, asking volunteers around the world to help sift through the noise. We've expanded our search beyond radio, waves, looking for laser pulses, odd atmospheric signatures, mega structures that might block starlight in unnatural patterns. We are looking, actively, hopefully, because we want to know. We want to know if the universe has other minds in it, other eyes watching the stars, other voices asking the same questions we ask. We want to know if this strange experience of consciousness, of being alive and aware and wondering, is something we share with others, or if it's a lonely accident happening just once here on this small world. The hope is powerful. You can hear it in Carl Sagan's voice when he spoke about the Voyager record. You can see it in the eyes of SETI researchers, still listening after decades of silence. You can feel it in the public fascination with UFOs, with exoplanets, with every new discovery that makes the universe seem a little less empty. We want contact. We want confirmation. We want to know that out there somewhere someone else is looking up at their sky and wondering the same things. But here's what's strange. We've been broadcasting our presence, intentionally and unintentionally, for over a century now. Our radio and television signals leak into space, spreading outward at the speed of light. By now, they've washed over thousands of star systems. If anyone out there is listening the way we're listening, they'd know we're here. And we've heard nothing back. No response to the Arecibo message, no alien probe arriving to investigate our radio leakage. No signal matching the patterns we've been searching for. Just silence. The same silence we started with. And that brings us back to the question, the one Fermi asked, the one we keep asking, in different ways, with different tools, across different generations. Where is everybody? Maybe they're not there, or maybe they are. Maybe they're just staying very, very quiet. And maybe, if we understood why, we'd stop calling out into the dark. We'll think about that next. Together, take your time, breathe, we're not going anywhere. There's a book you might have heard of. It's the second in a trilogy, a science fiction series by a Chinese author named Liu Cixin. The book is called The Dark Forest, and it offers an answer to Fermi's question, an answer that's both elegant and chilling. Liu Cixin asks us to imagine something. Imagine you're standing in a forest at night, a vast forest, dense and ancient. You can't see far. The trees are too thick, the darkness too complete. You know, logically that you're not alone. Forests have life in them, animals, maybe other people, but you can't see them and they can't see you. Now imagine you hear a sound, a crack of a twig, a rustle in the brush, movement, somewhere out there in the dark. What do? You could call out, "Hello, who's there?" You could try to make contact, to communicate, to find out if the sound came from something dangerous or something harmless. That's the friendly option, the hopeful one. But there's a risk, isn't there? Because by calling out, you've revealed yourself. You've told everything in that forest exactly where you are, and you don't know what heard you. You don't know their intentions. You don't know if they're stronger than you, better armed, more desperate. So maybe instead, you stay quiet. You freeze. You listen. You try to move silently, to gather information without giving yourself away. Because in a dark forest, the safest strategy might be invisibility. Now, and this is where Liu Cixin's metaphor deepens, imagine that everyone in the forest is thinking the same way. Every creature, every person, every conscious being in that dark forest is trying to survive. And they all face the same problem. They don't know who else is out there, or what those others might do. So what happens? The forest goes silent. Not because it's empty, but because everything in it is hiding. Liu Cixin takes this metaphor and applies it to the universe. He asks us to think of space as that dark forest, every star system, a tree, every civilization, a hunter moving carefully between them. We're all in the forest together, but we don't know who else is here. We don't know what they want. We don't know what they're capable of. And we can't know, not really, not with certainty, because we're separated by distances so vast that even light takes years, centuries, millennia to travel between us. This is the dark forest theory. It says that the universe might be full of intelligent life, thriving civilizations, advanced technologies, ancient cultures that have been exploring the cosmos for millions of years. But they're all staying quiet. They're all hiding. Because in the dark forest of space, to be detected might be to die. It's not a comforting thought, is it? It replaces the loneliness of an empty universe with something stranger. A crowded universe that feels empty because everyone is afraid. A cosmic game of hide and seek where the penalty for being found is extinction. But before we decide if this idea makes sense, we need to understand the logic behind it, the assumptions it rests on. The chain of reasoning that leads from the universe is big and old to everyone should stay silent or risk annihilation. Liu Cixin built this theory on two simple axioms, two basic truths that, if you accept them, lead inevitably to the dark forest conclusion. We'll walk through them together, one at a time, carefully. Because this isn't just about aliens and spaceships and science fiction. This is about survival, about trust, about what it means to exist in a universe where you can't know the intentions of others. It's about fear and what fear makes us do. Let's take a breath here. Settle in. We're going deeper into the forest now, but you're not alone. We're walking together. Let's start with something simple, something so obvious it barely seems worth saying. Every living thing wants to keep living. That's it. That's the first axiom of the dark forest theory. Survival is the primary need of civilization. You can feel the truth of this in your own body, can't you? Right now, as you listen, your heart is beating without you telling it to. Your lungs are breathing, your cells are working constantly to maintain themselves, to repair damage, to keep you going. Life doesn't ask permission to continue. It just continues. That's what it does. And it's not just individuals, it's species, it's cultures, it's civilizations. We build walls to protect ourselves. We store food for winter. We develop medicine to fight disease. We create laws and systems and structures, all designed at their core to help us survive, to keep going, to persist into tomorrow and the day after that and the year after that. This isn't good or bad. It's not a moral judgment. It's just what life does. Even when we talk about higher purposes, art, love, meaning, exploration, these things exist because we survived long enough to create them. Survival comes first. Everything else is built on that foundation. Now, let's think bigger. Imagine a civilization that makes it off their home planet. They've solved the problems that destroy most emerging species: war, disease, environmental collapse, resource depletion. They've survived long enough to reach the stars. That civilization, whatever form it takes, whatever values it holds, whatever dreams it carries, it survived because survival mattered to it. Because somewhere in its history, its culture, its collective decision-making, there was a baseline commitment to continuing to exist. Species that didn't have that commitment, they're not around anymore. They didn't make it. Natural selection works on civilizations just like it works on organisms. So when we think about alien civilizations, truly alien ones, shaped by different chemistries, different evolutionary pressures, different planetary histories, we can't predict much. We don't know if they'd be friendly or hostile. We don't know if they'd value art or science or something we can't even imagine. But we can predict this. If they're still around, they value survival. They have to. It's the entry requirement for existing at all. Liu Cixin isn't saying that every civilization is inherently aggressive or violent. He's not claiming that aliens are monsters waiting to destroy us. That's not the point. The point is simpler and somehow more unsettling. The point is that survival is non-negotiable. And when survival is at stake, when there's even a possibility that it might be threatened, civilizations will act to protect themselves. You would too. We all would. If you were walking alone at night and someone approached you in a way that felt threatening, even if they hadn't done anything yet, even if maybe they were, maybe harmless, you'd protect yourself. You'd cross the street. You'd prepare to run or fight. You wouldn't wait to find out their intentions because waiting might be too late. That's not paranoia. That's not cruelty. That's just survival instinct. The same instinct that's kept life going on Earth for billions of years. Now scale that up. Way up. A civilization that has survived for thousands or millions of years has done so by being very, very good at not dying. They've navigated threats we can't imagine. They've made hard choices. They've developed strategies, technologies, philosophies, all oriented around the central goal of continuing to exist. And when that civilization looks out into the dark forest of space, when they detect another civilization, or the possibility of one, what do they think? They think, could this be a threat? Not, is this definitely a threat? But could it be? Because in the calculus of cosmic survival, even a small possibility of existential danger might be too much risk to take. This is the foundation, the first axiom, the stone we're building everything else on. Survival is primary, not because civilizations are evil, not because intelligence inevitably leads to aggression, but because anything that doesn't prioritize survival doesn't survive long enough to matter. It's a cold logic, a hard truth, but we're not done yet. This is just the beginning, because survival alone doesn't create the dark forest. For that, we need the second axiom. Let's keep walking. Here's the second truth we need to sit with. The universe is big, unimaginably big, but it's not infinite in the ways that matter. Let's think about resources for a moment. Everything a civilization needs to survive: energy, matter, space to grow. These things exist in the universe in staggering quantities. There are more stars in the observable universe than grains of sand on all of Earth's beaches. More planets than we could visit in 1,000,000 lifetimes. More raw materials than we could ever use. And yet, it's all finite. Every star will eventually burn out. Every planet has only so much metal, so much water, so many useful elements. Every region of space can only support so much activity, so much energy extraction, so much life. The universe is abundant, yes, but it's not limitless. And this creates a problem, because civilizations don't stay still. They can't. That's the second axiom of the dark forest theory. Civilizations expand and grow, but the total matter in the universe remains constant. Think about our own history. We started as small bands of hunter-gatherers, maybe a few thousand people total, wandering the grasslands of Africa. Then we spread to every continent, into every climate. We built villages, then cities, then civilizations spanning continents, and we kept growing. Not just in population, but in what we needed. More food, more energy, more space. We went from burning wood to burning coal to splitting atoms. We went from needing a few square miles of land to needing an entire planet's worth of resources to sustain our current way of life. We're still expanding. We talk about Mars, about asteroid mining, about one day spreading throughout our solar system, and maybe eventually to the stars beyond. This is what growing civilizations do. They expand. They use more. They need more. Not because they're greedy, though sometimes they are, but because growth is another survival strategy. More resources mean more resilience. More territory means more options. More space means more chances to survive whatever disasters might come. A civilization that stops growing might stagnate, might become vulnerable, might find itself outcompeted or overtaken by civilizations that didn't stop. So there's pressure to expand. Always. Even for peaceful, cautious, responsible civilizations. Now imagine this happening across the galaxy, across the universe. Multiple civilizations, all expanding, all needing more matter, more energy, more space, and all drawing from the same finite pool of resources. Eventually, maybe not today, maybe not for 1,000,000 years, but eventually, paths cross, needs overlap, resources become contested, and here's where it gets difficult. Because when two civilizations encounter each other, they face a problem that has no easy solution. You need resources to survive. They need resources to survive. The resources you both need exist in limited quantities. At some point far enough into the future, there might not be enough for both of you to keep expanding forever. This doesn't mean war is inevitable, not immediately. Maybe you can cooperate, share, find compromise, trade. There's enough room in the universe, especially now, especially early in the game, for many civilizations to coexist peacefully. But the logic of the Dark Forest doesn't care about probably or for now. It cares about eventually, about the long game, about what happens when timescales stretch into millions or billions of years. Because civilizations that think cosmologically, that plan for deep time, have to consider not just whether another civilization is friendly today, but whether they might become competitive tomorrow, or in 1,000 years, or in an eon. And they have to consider something else too, something that makes cooperation even more complicated. They have to consider that the other civilization is doing the same calculation, thinking the same thoughts, weighing the same risks, wondering, what will you do when resources get scarce? What will you do when your survival and mine come into tension? What will you do when you have to choose between your future and mine? I can't know. You can't tell me in a way I can fully trust. And you can't know my answer either. This uncertainty, this inability to ever truly know another civilization's long-term intentions, this is what creates the chain of suspicion. And the chain of suspicion is where the Dark Forest really begins. We need to talk about that next, about what happens when survival meets uncertainty, when the need to continue existing collides with the impossibility of trust. Stay with us. We're getting to the heart of it now. The forest is getting darker, but we're still together. Let's imagine two civilizations meeting for the first time. They're separated by light years. Maybe they've detected each other's radio signals, or noticed artificial structures, or spotted the signature of industrial activity in an atmosphere. However it happens, they know. We're not alone. Now what? The optimistic answer, the one we like to imagine, is that they communicate. They exchange information. They learn about each other. They build trust, slowly, carefully, and eventually they become partners. Friends even, trading knowledge, sharing discoveries, enriching each other's existence. It's a beautiful vision. And maybe in some universe, with some civilizations, it happens exactly that way. But the Dark Forest theory asks us to consider the obstacles. the problems that make trust so difficult across cosmic distances. Let's start with the most basic one. Communication takes time. If a civilization is 10 light years away, every message you send takes 10 years to reach them. Their reply takes another 10 years to get back to you. A single exchange, question and answer, takes 20 years. Want to have a conversation? To build understanding? To negotiate? Every back and forth takes decades, and that's for close neighbours. For civilizations hundreds or thousands of light years apart, communication becomes a multi-generational project. You send a message, your great-grandchildren receive the reply. This makes building trust complicated, but it gets worse. Because even if you could communicate instantly, even if you could talk in real time, there's a deeper problem. You can't know what they're really thinking. You can't know their true intentions. They tell you they're peaceful. They share their art, their science, their philosophy. Everything they send suggests they're benevolent, curious, eager to cooperate. But can you be sure? Maybe they are peaceful. Maybe every word is genuine. Maybe they truly want friendship. Or maybe they're lying. Maybe they're buying time. Maybe they're learning about you, studying your weaknesses, waiting for the right moment. You can't know. Not with certainty. Not ever. And here's the thing that makes it even more difficult. They're thinking the same thing about you. You send them messages of peace and friendship. You mean every word. You genuinely want cooperation. But from their perspective, how can they be sure? How do they know you're not the threat? How do they know that your peaceful overtures aren't a strategy, a way to lower their guard while you prepare? They can't know either. This is what Liu Cixin calls the chain of suspicion. You suspect them. They suspect you. You know they suspect you, so you suspect them more. They know they suspect you, so their suspicion deepens. Round and round it goes, each layer of uncertainty adding to the next. And here's where it becomes truly unsettling. Even if both civilizations are genuinely peaceful, genuinely well-intentioned, genuinely hoping for cooperation, the chain of suspicion still exists, because you're not just wondering if they're hostile, you're wondering if they're wondering if you're hostile. And if they think you might be hostile, they might act defensively. And if you think they might act defensively, you need to consider acting defensively first. It's like two people in a dark room, both armed, both afraid, both trying to decide whether the other person is about to shoot. Even if neither wants to pull the trigger, the fear itself creates danger. Now add another layer, another complication. Remember the second axiom. Civilizations grow, they expand, they need resources. So even if a civilization is peaceful today, what about tomorrow? What about in 1,000 years? What about when they've grown larger, more powerful, more desperate for resources? Can you trust that their peaceful nature will last forever? Can they trust yours? And even if you both could somehow guarantee your own good intentions, can you guarantee the intentions of whoever comes after you? Your descendants, your successor civilizations, the artificial intelligences you might create, the transformed beings you might become? The answer is no, you can't, and they can't either. So the suspicion isn't just about now, it's about the entire future, the deep time scales on which cosmic civilizations operate. This is the chain of suspicion. This is why communication doesn't solve the problem, why good intentions aren't enough, why even genuinely peaceful civilizations might look at each other across the light years and feel afraid. Not because anyone has done anything wrong, but because nobody can ever be certain that everyone will always do everything right. And in the dark forest, uncertainty is dangerous. But we're not done yet. There's one more piece to this puzzle. One more reason why the forest stays dark. Let's keep going. There's something we need to consider about progress, about how quickly things can change. Think about Earth, just for a moment. Think about how we lived 1,000 years ago. Most of humanity farming, travelling by foot or horse, communicating across distances with written letters carried by hand. Life moved at a certain pace. Technology changed, yes, but slowly, gradually. Now think about 100 years ago. We had cars, but they were rare. Airplanes were new, fragile things. Computers didn't exist. Nuclear weapons didn't exist. Space travel was pure fantasy. And now, today, we've split the atom. We've walked on the moon. We carry supercomputers in our pockets. We've mapped the human genome, photographed black holes, sent robots to Mars. We're editing genes, building artificial intelligence, talking seriously about extending human lifespan indefinitely. All of that happened in roughly 1 century. 1 century out of the 200,000 years our species has existed. Out of the 4 billion years life has existed on Earth. Look at that curve. Look at how it accelerates. For most of human history, technology changed slowly enough that a person could live their entire life without seeing dramatic transformation. Your grandparents' world looked a lot like yours. Not anymore. Now, technology transforms within a single lifetime, within a decade. Year by year, sometimes month by month, the capabilities available to us expand in ways that would have seemed like magic to our recent ancestors. This is what Liu Cixin calls the technological explosion. And it's not unique to humanity. It might be a universal pattern, a phase that any civilization goes through once they reach a certain threshold of knowledge and capability. For a long time, maybe millions of years, a species develops slowly, learning to use fire, developing language, building tools. The progress is real, but it's gradual. Then something shifts. Maybe it's agriculture, maybe it's writing, maybe it's the scientific method, or computers, or something we haven't even invented yet, and suddenly the curve bends upward, sharply, exponentially. Progress that took millennia before now takes centuries, then decades, then years. This creates a profound problem for any civilization trying to assess another, because you can't judge a civilization by what they are today. You have to judge them by what they might become tomorrow. Imagine you're an advanced civilization. You've been around for 10,000 years, maybe 100,000. You're stable, careful, technologically mature. You detect a younger civilization. Maybe they're just beginning to use radio, just starting to explore their own solar system. They seem primitive compared to you, harmless, no threat at all. But here's the question: how long will they stay that way? Because if they're anything like us, if they're in the early stages of their own technological explosion, they might not stay primitive for long. That harmless civilization you detected might, in 100 years, develop weapons you can't defend against. They might, in 1,000 years, become more advanced than you. They might, in 10,000 years, be so far beyond you that you can't even comprehend their capabilities, and you have no way of predicting their trajectory with certainty. You don't know if their technological explosion will fizzle out, if they'll destroy themselves, if they'll plateau, or if they'll keep accelerating faster and faster until they become something unprecedented. This is the uncertainty that the technological explosion creates. You meet a civilization today and they're friendly, peaceful, curious. They pose no threat. But what about the civilization they'll become? What about the descendants of that civilization? What about the artificial minds they might create, the transformations they might undergo, the powers they might develop? You can't know. And if you wait to find out, if you give them time, if you let them grow, if you assume the best, you might be making a fatal mistake. Because by the time you realize they've become dangerous, it might be too late. They might already be more powerful than you, already capable of things you can't defend against. This is why, in the logic of the dark forest, even encounters with primitive civilizations are risky. It's not about what they are now, it's about what they could become. And the speed of that transformation, the explosive, unpredictable nature of technological progress, makes every encounter a gamble where the stakes are survival itself. Now we have all the pieces, the axioms, the suspicion, the uncertainty, the explosive, unpredictable nature of progress. And from these pieces, the dark forest theory draws its conclusion. A conclusion that's logical, chilling, and almost impossible to refute if you accept the premises. Let's look at it together. Let's see where this chain of reasoning leads. So here we are. We've walked through the logic together step by step. Now let's see where it leads. You're a civilization that survived for a long time, maybe millions of years. You've made it through the dangers that destroy most young species. The wars, the plagues, the environmental catastrophes, the existential risks that come with developing powerful technologies. You're still here, and you want to keep it that way. You know, from the first axiom, that survival is primary. For you, and for everyone else out there. You know, from the second axiom, that resources are finite, that civilizations expand, that eventually, on long enough timescales, there might be competition for matter, energy, space. You know about the chain of suspicion. You know that you can't truly know another civilization's intentions, that they can't know yours, that even communication doesn't solve this problem. It might make it worse, giving away information about your capabilities, your location, your weaknesses. And you know about the technological explosion. You know that a civilization that seems harmless today might become unstoppable tomorrow, that you can't judge threat by current capability alone. So now you detect something, a signal, a sign of another civilization out there in the dark. What do? The dark forest theory says you have three options. First option, you try to communicate, you reach out, you attempt to build trust, to cooperate, to share the galaxy peacefully. But we've already seen the problems with this. The suspicion, the uncertainty, the impossibility of ever being truly sure. And by communicating, you've revealed yourself. You've told them where you are. You've given them information they can use for good or for ill. This is the risky option, the hopeful one. And maybe, sometimes, it works. But if you're thinking about survival on cosmic timescales, if you're considering all the ways this could go wrong across millions of years, maybe it's too risky. Second option, you do nothing. You detect them, but you don't respond. You stay quiet. You watch. You wait. This is safer than communicating. You haven't revealed yourself. You haven't taken an active risk, but you also haven't solved the problem. They're still out there, still growing, still potentially dangerous, and now you're in a waiting game, wondering if they'll detect you, wondering what they'll do if they do, wondering how powerful they'll become while you wait. So that leaves the third option. The option the dark forest theory says is, coldly and logically, the safest. You eliminate the threat before they can detect you, before they can grow powerful, before they can become dangerous. You strike first, quickly, completely, silently, not because they've done anything wrong, not because they're evil or hostile or aggressive, but because they might be, because they could be, because on a long enough timeline with enough uncertainty, the risk of letting them continue to exist becomes too great. You destroy them, and then you go quiet again. You hide, you wait, because you know that if you can think this way, others can too. If the logic makes sense to you, it makes sense to anyone else facing the same cosmic game theory. This is the dark forest conclusion. The universe stays silent not because it's empty, but because everyone who survived long enough to matter has learned the same lesson. To announce your presence is to invite destruction. So civilizations hide. They minimize their signals. They develop quietly. They expand carefully. They watch for others, but they don't call out. And when they detect another civilization, another player in the forest, they face an impossible choice: trust and risk everything, or strike and stay safe. The theory suggests that civilizations who chose trust too often aren't around anymore. The ones that survived are the ones who stayed hidden, who stayed quiet, who, when they had to chose survival over hope. This is why the forest is dark, not because no one's home, but because everyone's hiding. And the silence we've heard, the great vast emptiness we've been listening to for decades, that's not absence. That might be caution. It might be fear. It might be the sound of 1,000 civilizations, 1,000,000 civilizations, all holding their breath in the dark, all staying perfectly still, all hoping that no one else notices they're there. And here's the unsettling part. If this is true, then every signal we've sent, every message we've broadcast, every radio wave leaking from our planet for the past century, we might have already made a terrible mistake. Let's sit with that for a moment. Let's think about what this means for us, for our search, for our hope, for the messages we've sent and the ones we're still planning to send. We'll talk about that next. But first, just breathe. The theory is dark, but it's still just a theory. We're still here, still listening, still trying to understand. So let's think about us for a moment. About Earth, about humanity, about what we've been doing for the past century. We've been loud. Not intentionally at first. We didn't set out to announce ourselves to the cosmos. But in 1895, when Guglielmo Marconi sent the first radio signal, we began leaking electromagnetic radiation into space. Every radio broadcast, every television show, every radar ping, all of it radiating outward at the speed of light. For over 100 years now, we've been creating an expanding sphere of signals, a bubble of noise growing larger every day, washing over star system after star system. By now, that bubble is about 100 light years across. It's reached thousands of stars. And it's still going, still expanding, carrying I Love Lucy and the moon landing and everything else we've broadcast into the cosmic dark. We didn't think about what that meant. Not really. We were just communicating with each other, living our lives, building our civilization. But if the dark forest theory is right, we've been doing something else too. We've been making ourselves visible, and then we did it deliberately. The Arecibo message in 1974, the golden records on Voyager, the ongoing SETI transmissions. We called out, we said, here we are, come find us. We did this because we're hopeful, because we're curious, because we're lonely maybe, and we want to know if there's anyone else out there feeling the same way. We did this because we assumed, we hoped, that any civilization advanced enough to receive our messages would also be wise enough, mature enough, peaceful enough to respond with kindness. But what if that assumption is wrong? What if the civilizations that survived long enough to become advanced did so precisely because they're not kind to strangers? What if they're the cautious ones, the suspicious ones, the ones who learn to hide? Then our messages aren't greetings, they're coordinates. Our broadcasts aren't conversations, they're targets. This is what keeps some scientists awake at night. People who've thought deeply about the dark forest theory and what it might mean for us. They wonder, have we already been detected? Is there something out there, right now, watching our signals spread across the galaxy, calculating whether we're a threat, deciding what to do about us? And if so, what comes next? The optimistic answer is nothing. Maybe the theory is wrong. Maybe the universe really is empty. Or maybe advanced civilizations are peaceful. Or maybe they're so advanced they don't care about us at all. Maybe we're safe. But the darker possibility is that we're on a timer now, that our signals have been noticed, that something is coming, moving toward us at a fraction of light speed, and we won't know about it until it arrives. A relativistic projectile, a self-replicating probe, something we can't even imagine, and there would be no warning, no declaration of war, no chance to negotiate or surrender or explain that we meant no harm, just silence. And then, nothing. This sounds like science fiction, doesn't it? Like paranoid fantasy. And maybe it is. But here's the uncomfortable part. We can't know. We can't know if the dark forest is real until it's too late to matter. Some scientists have called for us to stop broadcasting, to go quiet, to implement what they call cosmic radio silence. No more deliberate transmissions, and if possible, no more accidental leakage. Others say it's already too late. Our signals are out there. The damage, if there is damage, is done. Going quiet now won't make us invisible. It'll just make us look like we're hiding, which might seem even more suspicious. And still others say we should keep broadcasting, that the risk is worth it. That contact with another civilization, if it happens peacefully, would be the most important moment in human history, that we can't live our lives paralysed by cosmic paranoia. It's an impossible decision, isn't it? Do we stay silent and accept loneliness for the sake of safety? Or do we keep calling out, keep hoping, keep searching, knowing that every transmission might be the one that gives us away? There's no easy answer, no clear right choice. Because the dark forest theory is just that. A theory. An idea. A logical framework that makes sense on paper, but might not reflect reality. We don't know if the universe works this way. We're guessing, extrapolating, imagining, and that's important to remember. Because the dark forest isn't the only explanation for the silence. There are other possibilities, other answers to Fermi's question. Let's explore some of them together. Let's see what else might explain why the universe seems so empty. Because even in the dark, there's more than one way to see. The dark forest is compelling, elegant even in its cold logic, but it's not the only answer. Let's consider some other possibilities. Other reasons why we might be hearing silence when we listen to the stars. Maybe life is rare. This is called the rare Earth hypothesis. It suggests that while simple life might be common in the universe, complex life, the kind that leads to intelligence, to technology, to civilizations, requires such a specific combination of conditions that it almost never happens. You need the right kind of star, the right kind of planet at the right distance, a large moon to stabilize your axial tilt, gas giants in the outer system to sweep up asteroids, plate tectonics to regulate your atmosphere, a magnetic field to protect you from radiation, and that's just the beginning. You need billions of years of stability, lucky breaks in evolution, mass extinctions that aren't too severe, the right chemical building blocks in the right places at the right times. Maybe Earth isn't typical. Maybe we won the cosmic lottery and there simply aren't many other winners out there. If life is rare enough, the silence makes sense. There's no one to hear from because there's almost no one there. Or maybe life is common, but intelligence isn't. Life has existed on Earth for nearly 4 billion years, but for most of that time it was simple. Bacteria, algae. Eventually more complex organisms, but nothing you'd call intelligent. Humans, technological humans, have only been around for a blink, a few thousand years out of billions. Maybe that's normal. Maybe most planets with life stay stuck at the bacterial stage, or the equivalent of Earth's Cambrian period, never developing minds capable of asking questions about the universe. Then there's the Great Filter. This idea suggests there's some extremely difficult step in the evolution from simple matter to spacefaring civilization. A filter so hard that almost nothing gets through it. Maybe the filter is behind us. Maybe developing life at all is nearly impossible, and we're lucky to have made it this far. Or maybe the filter is ahead of us. Maybe civilizations tend to destroy themselves before they can spread to the stars. Nuclear war, climate collapse, artificial intelligence gone wrong, nanotechnology disasters, some technology we haven't invented yet that turns out to be fatal. If the filter is ahead, then the silence is a warning. It means that civilizations like ours tend not to last long enough to become detectable across interstellar distances. There's also the zoo hypothesis. Maybe advanced civilizations are out there watching us, but they've agreed not to interfere. We're in a cosmic nature preserve, protected, observed, studied perhaps, but left alone to develop naturally. It sounds almost patronizing, doesn't it? But it's possible. Maybe there are ethical rules among elder civilizations about contact with younger ones, or maybe we're just not interesting enough yet. Maybe they're waiting for us to reach some threshold before they say hello. And then there's a simpler possibility. Maybe they're too far away. The universe is so vast. Even travelling at light speed, crossing the galaxy takes 100,000 years, and most civilizations might be much, much farther than that. Maybe there are others out there, broadcasting just like we are. But their signals haven't reached us yet, and ours haven't reached them. We're all calling out into the dark, separated by distances so enormous that our voices simply can't bridge the gap. All of these explanations are possible. All of them could be true. The dark forest is just one answer among many. And we have no way yet of knowing which one is right. Maybe none of them are. Maybe the real answer is something we haven't thought of. That's the honest truth. We're guessing. All of us. Scientists, philosophers, writers. We're all trying to solve a puzzle with almost no pieces. The silence is real. But what it means, that's still a mystery. So let's think about that silence differently for a moment. Let's turn inward. Let's ask what the dark forest might say about us. Here's a question worth sitting with. Is the dark forest theory a description of the universe? Or is it a mirror? When Liu Cixin imagined civilizations hiding in fear, making cold calculations about survival, choosing destruction over trust, was he describing cosmic reality? Or was he describing us? Think about human history for a moment. We've spent most of it afraid of each other. Tribe against tribe, kingdom against kingdom, nation against nation. We've built walls, raised armies, developed weapons of increasing sophistication and horror, and often the logic was the same as the dark forest. We struck first because we feared being struck. We destroyed because we worried about being destroyed. We couldn't trust, so we chose safety through strength, through preemption, through violence. The chain of suspicion isn't theoretical for us. It's lived experience. Every arms race, every Cold War, every preemptive strike justified by, they might have attacked us eventually. These are the dark forest playing out on Earth. So when we imagine alien civilizations behaving this way, are we really imagining aliens? Or are we just projecting ourselves onto the stars? Maybe the dark forest says more about humanity's fear than about the universe's nature. But here's the thing, and this is important. We're not only that. Yes, we have our history of violence and suspicion, but we also have another history. A quieter one, maybe, but just as real. We cooperate. We build alliances. We create laws and treaties. We trade. We share knowledge. We help strangers. We've built institutions, imperfect ones, struggling ones, but real nonetheless, dedicated to peace, to cooperation, to solving problems together. The same species that created nuclear weapons also created the United Nations. The same minds that plan wars also plan aid missions, medical interventions, rescue operations. We contain multitudes, fear and hope, suspicion and trust, the capacity for terrible, violence and the capacity for profound kindness. So which version of us would we become if we reached the stars? Would we be the civilization that hides in fear, that strikes first, that sees every other intelligence as a potential threat? Or would we be the civilization that reaches out, that risks trust, that chooses hope even when it's dangerous? We don't know yet. That story isn't written. And maybe that's true for other civilizations too. Maybe they're not just one thing. Maybe they're complex, contradictory, capable of both darkness and light. Maybe the dark forest isn't inevitable. Maybe it's a choice made by civilizations based on their values, their experiences, their understanding of what survival really means. Because here's another way to think about survival. Maybe civilizations that never learn to trust, that never cooperate, that always choose fear. Maybe they don't survive as long as we think. Maybe the truly ancient civilizations, the ones that have lasted millions of years, are the ones that learn to work together, to communicate, to build something larger than suspicion and fear. Maybe wisdom, real cosmic wisdom, looks like the opposite of the dark forest. Or maybe that's just hopeful thinking. Human optimism projected onto the universe just as much as the dark forest is human fear projected outward. We can't know, not yet, but we can choose what we believe, what we hope for, what we work toward. And that brings us to a question we need to face directly. If the dark forest might be real, what do we do? How do we live with that possibility? Let's think about that together. So here we are, with an impossible question. If the dark forest theory might be true, even if it's just a possibility, not a certainty, What should we do? Should we go silent, stop all broadcasts, hide our presence, pull back from our hopeful searches and treat the universe as dangerous until proven otherwise? Or should we keep calling out, keep sending messages, keep listening, keep hoping that the cosmos is kinder than the theory suggests? There's no consensus. Even among scientists who take the idea seriously, opinions split. Some say caution is wisdom, that we're young, naive, still learning how the universe works, that broadcasting our location to unknown listeners is reckless, that we should observe, listen, learn, but stay quiet until we understand more. They point out that we can't undo a broadcast. Once a signal is sent, it's out there forever, expanding through space at light speed. If it turns out the dark forest is real, we've already made ourselves visible, but making ourselves more visible seems unwise. Others say silence is its own risk, that isolation might be more dangerous than contact, that if there are peaceful civilizations out there, cooperative ones, we'll never find them if we're all hiding from each other, that the universe might be full of civilizations waiting for someone brave enough to say hello first. They argue that retreating into fear means giving up on one of humanity's deepest drives, the urge to explore, to connect, to understand, that we'd be letting paranoia dictate our relationship with the cosmos. Both sides have valid points. Both are thinking about survival, just in different ways. And here's the deeper question underneath it all. What kind of civilization do we want to be? Do we want to be the species that hid, that let fear guide every choice, that missed potential friendships, partnerships, exchanges of knowledge because we were too afraid to take the risk? Or do we want to be the species that reached out even knowing the danger, that chose hope over paranoia, that decided some things, curiosity, connection, the search for meaning, are worth the risk? There's no purely logical answer to this. It's not a math problem, it's a question of values. It's about who we are and who we want to become. Maybe the truth is that we don't have to choose just one approach. Maybe we can be thoughtful, deliberate. We can listen more than we broadcast. We can be cautious without being paralyzed. We can stay aware of the risks while remaining open to the possibilities. We can acknowledge that the universe might be dangerous and still decide that hiding forever isn't living. Because here's something the dark forest theory doesn't account for. Meaning. Survival matters. But survival for what? Just to continue existing. Just to hide in the dark, generation after generation, never reaching out, never connecting, never knowing. That's survival, yes, but it's a hollow kind of existence. Maybe the civilizations that truly thrive, not just survive but thrive, are the ones willing to take measured risks, the ones who understand danger but don't let it consume them, the ones who remember that life is about more than just not dying. So perhaps our choice isn't between calling out and staying silent. Perhaps it's about finding a middle path, listening carefully, thinking deeply, being ready for both wonder and danger, being wise enough to be cautious and brave enough to hope. That's not a solution. It's not a clear answer. But maybe clear answers aren't what we need right now. Maybe what we need is to sit with the uncertainty, to accept that we don't know what's out there, to be okay with not knowing, and to decide, despite that uncertainty, what kind of presence we want to have in this vast, mysterious universe. Let's think about that mystery for a moment, about what it means to not know, because maybe the uncertainty itself has value. Let's pause here, just for a moment, and think about what we actually know. We know the universe is vast, we know it's old, we know it contains more stars, more worlds, more possibilities than we can fully comprehend. And we know we're here, conscious, aware, asking questions. Beyond that, almost everything is mystery. We don't know if we're alone. We don't know if life is common or rare. We don't know if intelligence emerges easily or if we're a strange accident. We don't know if the silence means danger or simply distance. We don't know. And there's something profound in that. Something we might be too quick to dismiss in our search for answers. Because not knowing, truly not knowing, is rare. Most of our lives are lived in the known. We understand how our bodies work, mostly. how our societies function, more or less. We have maps and schedules and predictions. We live in a world that's been explored, catalogued, explained. But the question of whether we're alone, the possibility of other minds in the cosmos, the nature of intelligence and consciousness and what it all means, these remain open, genuinely open. And that openness, that uncertainty, it's beautiful in its own way. It means the universe can still surprise us. It means there are still mysteries worthy of the word. It means we haven't figured everything out, solved every puzzle, removed every wonder. The dark forest is one possibility among many. And yes, it's unsettling. But the fact that we don't know if it's true means we also don't know if it's false. The universe might be dangerous, or it might be full of friends we haven't met yet, or it might be empty, or it might be something we haven't even imagined. All of those possibilities exist simultaneously right now in the space of our uncertainty. And maybe that's okay. Maybe we don't need to solve this yet. Maybe the question itself, the wondering, the searching, the hoping and fearing and imagining, maybe that's valuable on its own. It makes us think about our place in things, about what we value, about what kind of species we want to be, regardless of who else might be watching. It humbles us. The sheer scale of not knowing, the vastness of what we can't predict or control. And it inspires us. Because even without answers, we keep looking up, keep building telescopes, keep listening, keep sending messages into the void, not because we're certain they'll be received, but because we're the kind of beings who can't help but try. That's remarkable when you think about it. We're standing on a small planet, orbiting an ordinary star, in one galaxy among trillions. We've been technological for the blink of an eye. We barely understand our own world, let alone the cosmos. And yet we're out here, asking the biggest questions we can think of, building machines to search for answers, creating theories like the dark forest to wrestle with possibilities that might not even concern us. We're reaching beyond ourselves, beyond our immediate survival needs, beyond the practical and into the profound. That's what consciousness does, maybe. It wonders, it seeks. It can't help but ask, what if, and why, and is anyone else out there? And the universe, so far, hasn't answered. But it also hasn't stopped us from asking. So maybe the silence isn't empty. Maybe it's full of possibility, full of potential, full of futures that haven't unfolded yet. The dark forest is waiting, but so is everything else. Let's take one more breath together. We're almost at the end of our walk. One more thought. One more look at the stars before we rest. We've come a long way together tonight. Through the silence, through the theories, through the fears and hopes and uncertainties that come with being a young civilization, looking out at an ancient cosmos. We've walked through the dark forest. We've considered its logic, its assumptions, its unsettling conclusions. We've thought about what it might mean for us, for our search, for our future among the stars. And now, here at the end, let's return to where we started, to the quiet. The stars are still there, just as they were when we began, still shining, still distant, still silent. Nothing has changed out there. The universe is exactly as it was an hour ago, a day ago, a century ago. But maybe something has changed in here, in how we think about that silence, in what we imagine it might mean. The dark forest asks us to see the cosmos as a place of hidden dangers, of civilizations crouching in fear, of survival purchased through caution and sometimes through violence. It's a dark vision, but it's not the only vision. We can also see the universe as a place of potential friends, of minds waiting to be discovered, of knowledge waiting to be shared, of wonders we can't yet imagine. Both visions might be true, or neither, or something in between. We don't know yet, and that's okay, because we're still here, still thinking, still wondering, still looking up at the night sky with questions in our hearts. That curiosity, that wonder, that refusal to stop asking, that's what makes us human. That's what makes us reach beyond our small world towards something larger. And whatever is out there, in the dark between the stars, it doesn't change the fact that we're here, that we exist, that we're aware of our existence and capable of contemplating it. That alone is extraordinary. So whether the forest is dark or bright, whether we're alone or surrounded by hidden neighbours, whether the silence is safety or loneliness, we still have this moment, this awareness, this chance to think and wonder and be. The universe doesn't owe us answers. It doesn't owe us company. It doesn't owe us safety or meaning or hope. But it's given us something anyway. It's given us consciousness, the ability to look outward and ask why, the capacity to imagine possibilities beyond ourselves, and maybe that's enough, for now, for tonight. The stars will still be there tomorrow, the questions will remain, the search will continue. But right now, in this moment, you can rest. You can let the mystery be mysterious. Let the unknown stay unknown. Let the silence be whatever it is, dangerous or peaceful, empty or full. You've walked through the dark forest with us. You've considered the possibilities. You've sat with the uncertainty. And you're still here, still breathing, still thinking, still part of this strange, beautiful, terrifying universe. Thank you for spending this time with us, for wandering alongside us, for being willing to sit with questions that have no easy answers. If you'd like more explorations like this, more journeys through the mysteries of space and our place in it, we'd be grateful if you subscribed. But only if it feels right. No pressure, no urgency. We'll be here, thinking about the cosmos whenever you want to return. Until then, rest well. The forest is dark, but the stars still shine, and we're still here, together, looking up. Good night.